So I bought a set of fog lights for my F250. I had to do some bolt matching because Ford does not sell this hardware anymore. So I just went to Home Depot. First I Googled the size and I got a 10mm hex with a 6mm thread. So I think it's a M6. Don't correct me wrong, but if you take the housing in the Home Depot, they don't mind, and just match some bolts. They don't have to be exactly OEM, as long as they can fasten. Well, of course, I got some lock washers and hex nuts with it. To make life simpler, I got some 9145 Pigtails that matches the OEM fog light bulbs, but of course I'm going to put LED bulbs in there, 6000K. And I already use the crimping tool, which if you don't have a crimping tool, a proper crimping tool, what I like about this one, it has all the gauge wires laid out onto the crimping tool, and you put the wire in between and you squeeze, and it creates a also slightly and gentle correct crimp onto the wire without any welding. So pliers really don't technically work too well in my experience with messing around with automobiles or auto mechanics. So you want to get a proper electric crimping tool. I believe that tool is like $40 or $50, and I got that at Sears many years ago. And of course some red gauge wire, and I'm going to get some black gauge wire for the ground. And later in the video I will show you that I already hooked up or connected or purchased on eBay the auxiliary upfitter switch in the F250 that goes to the pass-through into the firewall, and I will connect the hot to the hot to the hot, and of course the ground. But first things first is to get these to fit into the bumper, because my F250 did not come with fog lights. It's an XLT model. So alright, so I'm gonna stop it here and pause it and get this electric. Alright, first we strip the wire with it. Alright, first things first, I already stripped this wire and used a crimping tool for this wire. So these are the pigtails for the fog lights. Use your standard stripper, okay? And I want to demonstrate how this tool works. It's awesome. Put the red to red, some color coding everything. This is like a 5 gauge wire. I'm sorry, a 20 gauge wire. So put it in between there. Make sure you eyeball it. It'll make those clicking sounds. And you squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. There we go. You see my F250, clean as it is, 100,000 miles. Did not come with the fog light bezels or fog lights, so I bought these on eBay. While working on these, you always have to be prepared for some surprises. Of course, I had to go to Home Depot and get some 10mm hex type. I forget the length of these, but I want to say they're about at least 3 inches long for these particular eBay housings. But what's good about Ford is, where's the phone? Okay. I had to take this top piece valance, unbuckle it from the top. First, take the grill out, it's sitting over there. Take that out, it's easy. Then you gotta uncouple these plastic deals back here. Okay, there's 1, 2, they look like these little flip things. Okay, 3, and all the way down. All you need to do is prop it up so you can get your retaining bolt through, as well as the hex nut and washer through. So I'm about to put the second one in. What's cool about Ford, and even the aftermarket part, is, there's the camera, there's the bolt, and there's a little plastic deal here that comes through the factory hole. So, come on phone, focus. And if you see that there, that makes it a whole lot easier to kind of center the piece in there. So you got to be crafty and kind of just put 2 and 2 together when putting these parts together, because you're going to run into some issues, or at least small little, not major issues. I had to take the grill out, of course. That's no big deal. All right, the grill's over there. What you need to do is when you fit these, great thing about Ford, they have the bolts pre-drilled, and there's a little plastic deal. Luckily, this eBay model actually had the plastic deal, OEM, that fits and centers the fog light bezel in place. And of course, I went to Home Depot and bought 10mm hex heads. I believe that's a 6mm thread. And you just match it up. Just bring this bezel in the Home Depot, and they're fine. And the length of the retaining bolts that I got are about 3 inches or so. They fit perfectly, and it just kind of worked accidentally well that way, that I measured it correctly. If I got it too long, there would have been a problem here. And you got to be crafty with this, because when I was researching how to do this, some videos did not show this. So all you had to do is just move these clips out and up. This is like a valance, a polyurethane plastic valance. It sits on top of the bumper, and it just pops up. Be very careful. And I just took a screwdriver and propped it up so I can get the retaining nuts into the bumper. Otherwise, you couldn't get it any other way. Not under, not through. You have to lift this up. You have to. That is probably the most important thing about this aftermarket install with OEM parts. I call it aftermarket because I bought these on the aftermarket. And make sure you put them the right way, because this retaining bottom nut has to fit down there. Has to fit down there perfectly. There's a groove that's cut into this bezel here that fits in there. I had them actually switch, so I had this side over on the right side and the left side over to the right side, or however you want to do it. So just make sure you have them in the proper positioning so you don't run any issues. So I'm just going to tighten it down now and hook up the electrical, but the fog lights are actually in there. The bezels are actually in there. Cool. What also helps about taking out the grill and propping up this valance is you can access, it's easier accessibility to these two hex bolts that I have, and ended up using 11mm sockets. So I guess if they're not 10mm bolts, they're 11mm that I purchased at Home Depot. And I got the right hand passenger side and left hand driver side, and I just took 2 ratchets and one on each side, inner and outer, and just tighten them in. So that's good enough. Some extra modifications is doing the wiring. So that's the ground. I ran it up towards the bumper and towards the pigtail, splice it into that, have a male and female connectors crimped and ready to go. I'll wrap it with electrical tape, and then the wires run underneath into the pass-through to the auxiliary switch. So ground and hot, red and black, just staying true to that. And I'm going to connect everything now. I installed the upfitter switch, auxiliary 1, goes to the pass-through through the firewall. Okay, hooked up the hot, and they work. Of course, they're not in the bezel, so I'm doing a test run. We have light, F250 with fog lights, 6000K bottom, 9145s or whatever, and H13s, I believe. Those right there, the iPhone will focus. Yes, sir. Now I'm going to put in a OEM brake assist controller module next to the open space for the auxiliary switches. This controls the brake sensitivity. What I like about Ford, everything comes pre-wired. So the brake control module matches to the female connectors. Those are the male. So those are the 4-point pin, and this is a 8-point pin. Just connect it, slide it in there. Makes a very pretty sound. Click, and slide that one in there. Ooh, green, Ford green. Set at 5. I gotta research how to set these, so interesting enough. Oh, that's pretty badass, a little trailer icon.